everybody. We should have admitted everybody that was in the weight room, and I'm sure we're going to have quite a few more trickle in. So we had a great response to this particular topic on registrants. So I'm sure people are still trying to log in. I know I had a little bit of trouble logging in, but I'm on my iPad today, so it was a little quirky. But welcome everybody. I just wanted to let everybody know that we are recording. That is so folks who aren't able to join us in the live conversation can catch up with us later, and that would be great. So yeah, we got more folks popping in for sure. But of course, everybody knows the drill. As you come in, please in the chat, give us your, well, we already kind of know who you are, but go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from this evening. And I think, Colleen, you can confirm we don't have anybody in the waiting room at this moment. Is that correct?
Not at this moment. Nope.
Okay. Yeah, great. Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce myself because I'm seeing some new names part of the conversation this evening, so that's really, really exciting. My name is Jennifer Morgan. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator for the department, and I'm based out of the Turkey office. We'll just kind of do a round table of introductions from folks who are hosting the meeting, and then I will pass it over to Colleen so she can introduce our special guest and our topic for this evening. So I will go ahead and pass it over to Stephanie.
Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie. I'm the Assistant Hunter Education Coordinator based out of Albuquerque, and super pumped tonight to hear this conversation, and I hope you guys get out of it as much as I'm going to, because I have a few hunts coming up. So really want to thank our special guests for being with us tonight.
Awesome. My name is Colleen Payne. I'm the Public Information Specialist for the Southwest area. So I'm based out of the Las Cruces office, but help with stuff across the state, and super excited to have all of you guys here tonight. I think we've got a pretty good topic scheduled. You know, we have been doing these ladies' social hours for the last couple of years, and we did it for the intent of trying to get more people interested and involved in the outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing that our department, oversees. But it's always great to get some new perspective of people who have mentored and help get other people involved in the outdoors too. So that's kind of why we have our special guest tonight, who is Jana Waller, coming and joining us from the beautiful state of Montana. But she spent some time in New Mexico in the past, and so she still has a little bit of New Mexico ties here. But as another female hunter in the outdoor industry, it's always great to get some additional perspective. So just to give you some more information about Jana, she's the host and executive producer of Skullbound Chronicles, a hunting and conservation series currently in its 4th season on CarbonTV. Previously, she produced and hosted Skullbound TV for 9 years on the Sportsman Channel, where she received a Golden Moose Award for Best in Conservation in 2018. She's been a lifelong hunter and an ardent conservationist, belonging to numerous conservation organizations, for which she's raised over $82,000 with her skull artwork. And if you guys have not seen her skull artwork before, I highly recommend you check it out. She's got tons of cool pictures on her social media pages of stuff that she's done for various people, and it's absolutely beautiful. Jana was awarded the Communicator of the Year Award in 2015 by the National Wild Turkey Federation, as well as receiving the Alumni Award in 2016 from her alma mater, the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, for promoting women in the outdoors with the use of her public relations degree. She was also awarded the CarbonTV Fan Favorite Award for her Best Host in 2019 and in 2020, and it looks like nominations or voting for 2021 is on right now, and she's up for a couple of awards on that too. Jana lives in the Bitterroot Valley, where she was recently appointed as a Montana Wildlife Commissioner by Governor Greg Gianforte in the fall of 2021. And I probably mispronounced his name. Sorry.
Oh, you did good
on that one. But yeah, welcome, Jana. I'm so happy to have you here, and we've got a kind of a fun conversation planned ahead. So everyone that's joining the call, we're going to kind of just have casual conversation with Jana tonight. We've got lots of questions for her, but if you have questions that you specifically want answered, we can certainly unmute you if you want to do it audio, or you can just drop them in the chat too. So welcome, Jana.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I love talking to groups of women who are passionate about hunting and fishing. I mean, it's my little that I know back in the day that it would become my whole life and my career. People don't know that before Skullbound, I actually worked for Edward Jones Investments for 10 years. So definitely a big switcheroony, but I've been a hunter my whole life. I was lucky enough to have my dad introduce me to the outdoors and to hunting particularly when I was a kid back in the early 70s. And he just noticed in me a love of nature. And that's probably the number one question I get is, how do I get my wife, my daughter, my friend, even sometimes how do I get my husband interested into hunting? And really to me, it's just get them outside, get them out into the great outdoors, because hunting, there's a lot of aspects to it, of course, with our weaponry, gear wise, but really it's about a love of nature. I mean, notching a tag is really a small portion of the hunt, as you probably all know. So to me, it's just about getting outside and seeing the spontaneous of Mother Nature and, soaking it up all, to me, it's also a connection. Like I get so passionate about it, especially talking to someone who doesn't hunt or doesn't know anyone in the hunting world, or maybe didn't grow up hunting, is that to me, it's a connection to everything that's real. Because literally when I'm hunting, I think back to even caveman days of like, hunting has always been here. It is what the planet Earth has had since the beginning of man. And I feel such a connection to who I am, to my food, to Mother Nature, to God when I'm hunting. So it is literally just become almost every aspect of my entire life. So I'm looking forward to tonight's chat.
Jana, when did you start hunting? Did you start once you were an adult, or did you grow up around it too?
I grew up, I went to hunter safety when I was 12. And now, mind you, I got my little hunter safety card in 1983. So that's a while ago, but when there weren't girls in hunter safety, mind you. But now it's so exciting. I walk into a class, I have friends in Wisconsin, which is where I grew up. You can probably hear it in my accent, but I have friends who teach hunter safety, and I often will pop in and do hello visits. And it's so great nowadays to see, anywhere from a quarter to a half of the people in hunter safety are girls. But my dad, just like I said, noticed a love of nature. I would beg him to let me sit along in the duck blinds with him and walk the pheasant fields with him. So I literally was just a shadow most of my childhood. When I was in 7th grade and 8th grade, we took 2 trips to South Dakota where we pheasant hunted. And I was the blocker, typically the blocker on the end of the field, and the bird gutter. And I literally thought that was the most awesome job. Like, and they were like, cool, some kid to gut the birds. But I was like so excited because it was like science class. Here I got to, basically, my dad has always joked that Jana doesn't field dress anything. She autopsies everything, because where else do you get to see all that, right? Even in just birds, it was so fascinating to me at that time. So I started doing that. And then when I was in and I didn't really hunt as much as I did shadow my dad. And so I come from a perspective of like, take your kids out. You don't have to throw a weapon in their hands. To let them shadow you, whether it's an elk hunt or a bird hunt. And my dad picked up a bow when I was in high school. And so he started archery hunting whitetails in Wisconsin. And I would sit in the trees with him, or he'd set me off in another tree stand. My boyfriend was a bow hunter, even though I don't ever remember him ever notching a tag, but sorry, Andy. But then I was again, just sort of a tag along. But when I was a freshman in college, I met a gal, friend of my friends down the hall. And she had just gotten back from a hunt, and she said she was a bow hunter. Now, mind you, this is 1989. And I said, I sit in the trees. It's so awesome watching the deer and everything, but I can't pull my dad's bow back, not even like. And she's like, well, you got to get a bow that fits you. You've got to get one that's tuned down and you can. And I'm like, oh, really? Where do you do that? And like, it was one of those moments where I feel like it was a light bulb, like, oh, if she could, because she's this little itty bitty girl, if she could do it, I could do it. And no one even my dad hadn't really, because he was brand new into it, hadn't fostered that in me until I saw another girl doing it. And then I got a bow, and that same like month or two when I met that gal, my dad called me. I went to college just 15 minutes from my house. My dad called me and said, I got a buck down, but I can't find him. It was his first buck. And in fact, I sent you a picture of it, Colleen. It's in that file if you can find it.
Let me see if we can find it.
Yeah. It's where I'm not in camo. My bangs are about 8 inches high. You'll be able to tell from
I found it from the bangs.
But my dad was so excited and he's like, I can't find it. He called me the next morning. I'm like, I'll skip class and come home and find you. So I drove by, we met at the house, we went down the road. He had gotten permission on this guy's little piece of land. And it's so funny because back in the day, this is like 89 or 90. And back in the day, there was these hilarious, there it is. There's these string trackers that attach to your front of your bow. And my dad's always been into like new gadgets and so like anything to like kind of be cool and new. So he had this, and it attaches to where your stabilizer does on your bow, and it's attached to your arrow, and it takes the string out. Funniest thing you've ever seen. And he tried this, and literally, yeah, it worked, except the string ran out because the buck ran too far. And so I could see the string through the cornfield, and then he trailed it a bunch further, but didn't find it. Well, I got on one part of the cornfield, he got on the other, and we kind of just zigzagged. And I ended up seeing these tracks that looked like they were kind of dragging. And so, you know how it is in a cornfield, I went to the next row, went to the next row, went to the next row, so excited because it looked like a drag. And there, the next, like 4 or 5 rows down was my dad's buck. And I screamed, Dad, I found him. Here he is on the screen. And he came over, and I am not kidding when I say I had never seen my dad. My dad's he's really funny, but he's a quiet funny and a real quiet, sarcastic sense of humor. I'd never seen him jump up and down with excitement. And I heard him tell this story to other people, friends of his down the road after this. And he literally equated the excitement of finding that buck to the birth of his 2 daughters. So
it's a big moment.
Yeah, it was pretty big. It was big for me, but apparently not that big. And I remember thinking, though, I want to feel that. So I had met that girl, and I had found my dad's buck all in the same time frame. So I got a bow. Long story short, got into bow hunting. That was 1989, 90 when I bought the bow. It's been a long time, but it has been literally the passion of my life. And I got a doe that first year and was so super excited about that. And there is something so amazing about just the whole process. But later on, you're eating dinner and you're eating, that venison that you got, whether it's I don't care. I hunt with everything, by the way, pistol, shotgun, muzzle loader, rifle, but everything. I strictly archery hunter, but to get an animal with any kind of weapon and to be serving your family dinner, like that was so exciting to me. I took deer sausage back to college. I was also proud. And so anyway, I started out kind of hunting, but a shadowing, and then started archery hunting. And then my big hunts, of course, happened when I moved to Montana 13 years ago. I had been connected to this is going to sound really funny, but I was connected to other women hunters only through womenhunters.com. It was the first, I don't even think it's in existence anymore. It's kind
I remember it.
Yeah, do you
remember it?
It's really cute. It was a bunch of older ladies at the time. We're all kind of new to the internet, as weird as that sounds, but it was such a way to connect. It was my only other way to connect with women hunters, except for writing articles. And I used to write, I remember the first time Bow Hunter put my picture in their magazine, and I thought I was like on top of this world. I was so excited to be in this guy's magazine, where guys would be at their hunting cabin and open it up and see me like archery hunting. And it was just the fruition of all the hard work that goes into hunt, seeing it in a magazine. And then I started writing to connect. I started womenhunters.com as one of their staff writers, So I did that for years. And then I met my ex when I'd gone through a divorce, living in my mom's basement. I always do the big L, living in my mom's basement. And, but she lived on the lake and I fished nonstop. That was the only benefit of it. But then I met my ex, and he was actually producing a hunting show on the outdoor channel when I met him, kind of wanting to break off from that production company and do his own thing. And I said, well, why don't we start a show? And I had been doing my artwork, my skull art at that time. Mm-hmm. And so we called it Skullbound, not because I go out hunting skulls, but just because I was even raising money for conservation with my skulls back in Wisconsin. We pitched the show to Sportsman's. It got picked up, and it's been 13 years. And so in those 13 years, I have crammed a bunch of hunts into 13 years across the world, but it's just been literally the highlight of my life. And if I can pass that passion on to anybody, that's what it's really all about.
I think as hunters, we definitely get to that point too, where going on all the hunts and doing all the things for ourselves is super exciting and fun and a learning process. But then you get to this point where you're like, I just want to help other people and see other people succeed. And I get
Feels
so
it.
much more adrenaline and excitement. And it's so much more rewarding helping somebody else and seeing them experience those feelings. Like when your dad first got his book, you know, you want to experience that, but then you get to help other people experience that too. So tell us a little bit about, like, if there was a moment or a hunt or something that like inspired you to be like, you know what? Yeah, I want to take that step and start helping other people get introduced to it. Was there some kind of defining moment, or did it just kind of naturally evolve?
No, it was my mentorship is a little bit different than other people's. My heart in mentorship is with veterans. And so every year I try to take 1 or 2 veterans on an amazing, typically elk hunt, but I've done turkey, I've done fishing trips, but typically elk hunt and typically combat veteran. But that started back, I'm terrible. I don't know about you guys, but the older I get, I'm like, 3 weeks ago. And it was like 2 years ago, or I'll say 2 years ago. And it was like 10 years ago. So, but I'd say it was about 8 years ago. I met a double amputee Navy SEAL named Bo Richenbeck, and he was a double amputee above the knees, which makes a big difference in terms of prosthetics and movement and such. I met him at a fundraiser in Missoula, Montana. And he was just so inspirational to me. He had a great attitude, and he wasn't a hunter. And I said, dude, would you ever want to go on an elk hunt? I'm not exactly sure how it would work, but I think we could do it. He's like, heck yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys. I mean, he's Navy SEAL. I mean, he can basically do anything. Tough, gritty, you know, but I wanted to be able to help him see that he could still do this kind of thing. And so with the help of Rich Birdsell, an outfitter out of the Cascade area, he said, yeah, bring him on. And I honestly didn't know how it would go, because it was a hardcore elk hunt. These are big, beautiful mountains in Montana. This was not, go sit on the spigots at night and wait till the herd comes down. This was a hardcore climb up in the mountains hunt. And after the first day, Bo and his dad came with us, and his dad and he had never hunted together, because when Bo was in high school, he was really into hockey. And so his dad gave up hunting to cart him around to all of his hockey matches. And then he joined the Navy and was a SEAL, and unfortunately stepped on an IED his first deployment. But so to have his dad be so excited to be hunting again and hunting with his son, excuse me, was amazing. You can watch this episode, by the way. It's on, it's actually, so this season on CarbonTV, where my show airs, it's free. Everything's free, which is so much fun. It's like YouTube, but for hunters. They're never going to like put the big red circle / over your shows like YouTube does, or take them down. But this year, I put all of my favorite veteran hunts in one big season. So Bo's is the first one. You can go watch it anytime. So we did that hunt. The hunt was 7 days. We hadn't notched a tag yet. The outfitter let us extend. It's day 8. We watched these 3 bulls go over this ridge and into this canyon. It took and we were going to go. The game plan was, we're going to try to get up to this edge of this bowl, and we're going to park it there all day long, because those 3 elk probably bedded in that bowl. It took us half a day just to get up there, because his prosthetics didn't work. The track chair was way too loud, and he literally crawled on his hands and stumps for 8 days in the mountains. It was so inspirational. Like every day I cried for some reason, because I was so inspired. And so we get up to this bowl. It's mid-afternoon. We're there, we're waiting hours on end. I see a bull way over here on this other edge. I literally said, I'm going to be right back and just check. And I walked the edge of this rim to glass up to see if by chance these 3 bulls worked out, and we were wasting our time. Well, I got up there, lost the bull, couldn't find him, went back here, got back to, like, we didn't have any options. We had to wait it out here. It was like 40 minutes light left. All of a sudden, I can't remember if it was Bo or his dad, or said, I see tines. And we're like 400 yards across up on this ridge from this big, thick bull of scrub brush and oaks and such. Long story short, 2 bulls out of the 3 pop up. Bo drops this bull. I start bawling. His dad's bawling. He's so excited. And now we got to get Bo all the way over to this bull. And it was one of those moments in life that was just so inspirational to me. Bo was so lit up, and he's this quiet, humble dude, warrior style. And he was just so excited. And I said to myself, I want to do this at least once a year if I can. My goal someday would be to have just a veteran show, and I'm working on it actually. But so that spurred me to mentor combat veterans, not necessarily with a disability or a amputation. And I've taken a lot of single, double, triple amputees out on their first elk hunt. But I took a guy with a severe PTS who hadn't left his house in 4 years. I took him fishing. I took a woman, Shelby Hatch, who was a surgical flight chief on her first hunt through the Wyoming Women's Foundation Antelope program, which is, we could talk about that. That's an incredible program. You know, just hunts like that. And through filming of the hunt, being able to tell their veteran stories, which to me are so inspiring, men and women who are willing to give up so much for this incredible country that we live in. It just seemed like such a perfect way to tell their story and to mentor their hunts. And when you're on a hunt with like Eric Galvin, one of my favorite human beings, who's a triple amputee, just getting out of bed is miraculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, think of like, I get a zit and I complain, for crying out loud. Like here, he just sets everything in perspective. And we were at R&K hunting in Wyoming, and he gets his bull. He'd never seen snow before. We got a blizzard thrown at us, and every hunt I've been on like that has just been miraculous. And everyone has a notch tag at the end, which is incredible in and of itself. But it's just been my way of mentoring. And not to say I haven't taken some kids out and such, but to me, it has been my way of giving back.
And it's incredibly inspirational when you get to have those kinds of moments, because it's not a matter of you squeezing the trigger and filling your own tags. It's all for the other person. And yeah, mentorship is a great thing. And that's kind of what we want to maybe help inspire some of the ladies on this call too, because, you know, a lot of the women that are joining us in these calls have lots of experience, but they're just not sure about like maybe taking that next step and how to become a mentor. And so like, what advice might you have for somebody who's maybe taking that step for the first time, or maybe curious about doing it, and maybe the best way to go about it from your perspective? And Jennifer and Stephanie and Tristana certainly can add in some tips and pointers here too, on what opportunities that we have available through our department too to mentor.
There are so many opportunities, like you had said. Literally, if you Google hunting mentorship programs, every single state you can, they're like the NRA, the American Hunter magazine has a really great article all about how to become a mentor, what states have the mentoring program. And when I say that, if you're not familiar with, if anyone listening, the mentoring program is not in every single state, but I think it's in over 40 by now, where you don't have to have a hunter safety to go on a hunt with another mentor. I don't know about New Mexico, but it's a structured program through Fish and Game, each state's Fish and Game department, in that way. But in terms of being a mentor, I think there can be a lot of misconception or hurdles people put in their minds. Really think about it as inviting a friend just to tag along. You know, there's a lot of steps to mentorship in terms of what you may have a little anxiety about. Well, I don't know if my friend knows how to shoot a gun, or they want to bow hunt but haven't started yet, or, you know, there's weaponry, there's gear, my friend doesn't have enough gear. There's all these other hurdles that we can put in our mind. But if you think about mentorship in terms of, how about just inviting a friend along? What if it's a neighbor, a friend, a coworker who never has had the opportunity, who doesn't even know that sometimes a hunt is a glorious hike through the mountains? You know, like sometimes going on a hunt is just basically pushing the grasslands looking for pheasants. It does, you know, it doesn't have to be this hardcore 10-day backcountry elk hunt. You know, it can be something as simple as inviting a friend, just, hey, I'm going on a hunt and I have a bear tag. Do you want to come along and maybe we'll see a bear? Like I've done that a lot with friends, you know, who like maybe don't have a tag and they're not even hunters, but who have come out and visited me during a hunt, and I really want to get itchy, want to get out there or something, where we'll just go on sort of a critter cruise. Look, yeah, I've got a tag in my pocket and I've got my pack, I've got my stuff if I happen to find success, but otherwise let's just go look for nature and start out the mentorship relationship like that.
Yeah, that's great advice. Just get in the truck. Let's go. Let's just go check out some stuff. Jennifer, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe some mentorship opportunities that we have in the state? And some of them, you know, might be geared towards youth, but you could take anybody of any age.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's kind of nice here about New Mexico is once you turn 18, you no longer have to have hunter education. So it's not really a hurdle. We always recommend it, especially for new hunters, because it's it helps set like a baseline
Yep.
for anybody that's wanting to pick up either archery or a firearms type of hunt. A lot of folks just feel like, man, I don't even know much about firearms handling safety. And so then that just definitely gives that awesome baseline just for that. And then they can grow from there. So if you're under 18, you have to have hunter ed, but we don't have any minimum age. So we have had, very young youth come in, and what's great to see in that opportunity is the parents stepping up and understanding what their child's limitations are, and if they feel like they're ready to come in at 8 or whatever, then they come in and take our class and pass, and then they're good for life. They don't have to retake hunter ed. And then we have the mentor youth program too, to kind of a try before you buy. Some states have it as an apprentice type of license, to where they're with a licensed mentor and who's an adult, and then that person, mentors them for however many seasons or however many years, or maybe it's just a one-time deal in some states. So every state has it differently, but that helps a young hunter who might not be 100% about it because they heard it from a friend at school. They can try it before they buy, and then once they're hooked, then they come to see us in hunter ed. So we have a couple different opportunities of how to entry level into hunting. But some of the hunting opportunities that we have here in New Mexico for new hunters, of the big highlight one we have is our youth incentive hunts, to where if they ace both the proficiency, that's the firearms handling, and they ace their written exam first time through hunter ed, they get put into a special pool of youth hunters for a private land, either antelope hunting opportunity or a cow hunting opportunity. And just like many of you who might have mentored a new hunter, I'm not only mentoring the child, it's amazing how much I've actually mentored the adult that has come along with that child. And it's just an amazing bonding experience between the two. It's an amazing learning experience. I learned a lot from being a mentor as well. And it's just like some of the conversations that I know that Colleen and the rest of us have had. We just did a hunter ed camp this last weekend, and I always tell the group, hey, this is information exchange. I've learned so much from my students that I have, just on my own. So I'm not always the teacher. I'm also a student in that capacity. So, but our youth hunting opportunities are set that way. And as far as through hunter ed sponsored, and what's really pretty cool is a lot of our parents or adults who are mentoring or bringing this youth on the hunts, either they haven't hunted in a long time, or they've maybe never big game hunted before. Mm-hmm. And so that's just an amazing opportunity to have. And now they've made that investment of time with us, and hopefully they have continued on. And after looking at some of our past hunts that we've had, they have gone on to continue to big game hunt or expand into other things that they have never even thought about before. So in different methods. So that's super cool. Some of the other things we've had in the past is partnering with NGOs. When Colleen was with Mule Deer Foundation, they started that DOES program. And that is essentially bringing ladies on board, because women are the largest growing chapter, we could say, in hunting. And which is really amazing to me, because I think it's really great that so many women now are not letting anything hold you back, whether it's a career in welding, to where that was never ever a woman's world. And I have seen some women that it's just amazing what they have become in some of these careers that 20 years ago you would never even think about it. Same with hunting. Yeah. 20, 30 years ago, even maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you didn't see the growth in hunting and angling as we do now. And it's just amazing to me. And it's because of women that are, part of this group and numerous other groups out there that are willing to share those conversations and mentor somebody, is what's making that happen. So kudos to everybody on the conversation today. Just being here, you're part of that growth. And it's just super amazing to me. But we have those women's hunting opportunities or angling that we've done through the agency. I know that our agency through an R3 program is really starting to target some youth turkey hunts that literally it's just through a draw. You just submit an application to do it. You have to have had hunter ed or at least be a mentor youth, and you qualify. And so there are growing numbers of those opportunities starting to become available. COVID kind of screwed everybody up in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So we got sideways in a lot of ways, but we're coming back and starting to get our boots on the ground again to offer some of these opportunities. And it's basically, through partners to make a lot of this stuff happen. We've had some youth pheasant hunts, youth quail hunts. And like I said, through some certain NGOs, we've had some ladies only opportunities as well. So,
Great.
And then Colleen, you can expand on that, or Tristana as well. But I think I hit most of what we've been offering over the last several years.
Yeah, that was super helpful. Stephanie, you have something you want to?
Yeah, not to plug our own department or anything, but if taking somebody out like into the woods or into a field and you just don't feel confident yet to do that, I mean, it's signing up to be a volunteer and teaching a hunter education class is a great way to get started. I think just to be a mentor, because it kind of gets your feet wet a little bit, and just even being able to bring the hunting aspect or the hunting world into words to somebody else. And even starting out with young kiddos is great. And then moving on to a friend, male friend, a female friend, whoever. I think it's a great opportunity to get started there.
That's like a really good segue into kind of one of the next kind of topics or questions I wanted to bring up too is, you may not be ready to take somebody out on a hunt yet, or may not feel like you're ready, or maybe even the people that are potentially interested, maybe they're not ready yet either, but there's still other things that you can do to encourage others about and inform and educate others about hunting. So Jana, what would you think of if there was somebody that maybe wasn't ready to take that step yet of taking somebody out in the field? How could they still promote and positively represent the hunting and fishing community? Because there is still a lot that we could do, maybe without having to take that step for mentorship yet.
Yeah. There's twofold that came to mind right away. Is number one is remember that we all probably have our social medias, and that's a really great way to express ourselves. Well, I don't care whether you're giving makeup tutorials or fashionistas, it's because you're talking about what you love, right? Same thing with hunting. It's easy for us to use our social media platforms to promote hunting in a positive light. Lord knows mainstream media is not doing us any favors. I mean, in terms, my friend, I met an actor. Oh, this is a dozen years ago. Patrick Kilpatrick was his name. I met him at a symposium in Wisconsin at my university, and he was an actor from Hollywood who's a big hunter, a big gun guy. And he called it global Hollywood, how trends come out of global Hollywood, from movies to music to, trends, fashion, the way we talk, dance, everything comes out of global Hollywood. It's what people see. And he used to say global Hollywood does hunters no favors. And it's so true. I could think of 10 movies right now that portray hunters with a wad of tobacco in their lip, shooting out of the pickup truck. Like, I was just talking to somebody the other day, Wolverine. The movie Wolverine starts out with hunters looking like, just a bunch of, undereducated, shooting from the pickup, kind of thing. And it doesn't do us any good. Now, on the flip side of that, there is stuff like Katniss, from, help me out, brain freeze.
Hunger Games.
Thank you. Hunger Games. All of a sudden, young girls were like, I want to learn how to shoot a bow. And that was a beautiful thing, right? Even, I believe it's even unintentional of Hollywood, but that was a beautiful thing. But you can see how it can brand hunting in a negative or a positive light. And unfortunately, it's almost always negative. Any news people see on mainstream media news outlets is all negative, always, all the time. And so we have to take it into our own hands, I think, through our social media and talk about hunting, talk about why you like it, talk about the beautiful rainbow you saw and the amazing, I saw a moose with a calf, or, just anything about what you experience out there, recipes, cooking, cooking meals that came from your hands from the field, I think is another way to beautifully express hunting. And as horrid as COVID was, one of the beautiful things I think that came of it is this awareness that you could now walk into a grocery store and have the shelves and the aisles be empty. And us hunters are sitting back on my freezer's good. Like I have, 2 freezers in my garage completely full. So it's never a dire emergency like it was for a lot of people. And I think that culturally right now, there is a new awakening of our connection to food. And I think COVID is a big is responsible for a lot of that. I also think I would even say veganism was big. Organic veganism was a big thing. Not to say it's not a big thing anymore, but I see a lot of people, even friends I know who were vegans, take a turn to where they're all of a sudden okay if you gather your own meat. They're against, big factories and butcheries and all that kind of thing, or steroids being injected into the cattle, this and that. But all of a sudden, hunting looks okay. Look, I don't care where you come from into the hunting world. I'm just glad you're here and glad that you are learning about it and respecting it and realizing that, we're the biggest animal lovers on this planet, in my opinion. And I can say that there are more animals in this country because of hunters. And that's really a topic I bring up sometimes when I'm sitting in an airport next to somebody, or I'm having a conversation with someone who's non-hunter, and they're like, wait, what? How are there more animals because of hunters? And then you explain how we hunters are the ones paying for wildlife management through most of it, through our dollars, through taxes, Pittman Robinson, through buying a license, buying a tag, a permit. That money goes back to each state to manage their wildlife. When the wild sheep come down with pneumonia, and we need to wipe that herd out and reinstate that herd, typically hunters' dollars do that. Same thing with studies for chronic wasting disease with the deer across the country. From, why are there more ducks than there ever been before? Hunters. There's so many stories like that connect, and people just, if they haven't been from a hunter family, they may not know that connection, that wildlife management's dollars are primarily from us hunters and anglers. But again, through social media. And then I was also going to say, it's really easy to find a conservation group by you. And I belong to, currently active in 7 of them. And I get a little banqueted out. My boyfriend's an auctioneer, so I have to go to a lot of extra ones too. But those are a great way to connect with other hunters, and it's a great way to give back. Even if you just at the bare minimum sign up to be an annual member, say it's Mule Deer Foundation, Turkey Federation, RMEF, I don't care, and join them all. I can join on average. If I joined 10 conservation groups, it's probably going to cost me around $300 a year to join 10 of them, because they're $30-ish an annual membership. And that allows you to get their emails. A lot of times it's awesome magazines that they give out, but you can get involved through conservation groups. Super easy. Go to the banquets, buy a dinner ticket, maybe buy raffle tickets. All that money goes back to conservation issues in your own state, but you meet other hunters, and you even meet a lot of non-hunters. I've met a ton of non-hunters through conservation groups because they're spouses of their, you get into it just like he does. And then we'll start this dialogue. But I'd say through our social media is a great way to influence other people and to show what hunting is all about and fishing is all about, and even trapping. I had a big meeting with trappers today. And also through conservation groups there's groups in every single city. Whether find out are you passionate about deer, elk, and maybe you're not even. My dad, it's funny, my dad was not really much of a duck hunter past my grade school years. He got into whitetail and such. He used to go to Ducks Unlimited, like 2 different Ducks Unlimited banquets as long as I could remember. I would go with them, and just not even really into duck hunting, but super loved the banquets, had fun, always won guns. And, it doesn't even mean you have to, if you want to join DU, Pheasants Forever, whatever, you don't even have to seriously be involved in that style of hunting to go to a banquet and have a good time and give back.
Absolutely. There are tons of ways to get out there. And the cool part about conservation is that, you might get involved in all these kind of species specific groups, but when they're doing these kind of big projects, it benefits all wildlife.
Right, exactly.
So, you might be targeting mule deer or quail or whatever, but it's benefiting everything. So,
Yep.
We say a lot of, hunting is conservation. That's kind of the tagline for REMF too. But It really is. A lot of that funding is going to support all wildlife. And as hunters, we can't say that we support conservation of one thing and not everything else.
Right.
You know, it's a balance, and it's definitely kind of a system in place. And, you know, kind of going back to what Jennifer mentioned about us doing this hunter ed camp this last weekend, which was also the first camp that we got to do in a long time. So we were super excited to go and do that. It's kind of like this 2.5 day camp where we bring all of them out and do a lot more hands-on stuff. But one of the things I always like to reiterate in those courses too, whether we do an in classroom one or a camp, is, especially when it comes to photography and especially when it comes to social media, is the type of message that you share and the type of photos or videos that you also share are extremely important to be mindful of before you hit that share button.
Yep.
You know, make sure that your photos are clean. Make sure that there's not a lot of blood in them. Make sure that you're looking like you're showing respect to the animal and especially to the hunting community. Because if I went and shared a photo that was really bloody and gross looking, it not only represents me as a hunter, but it represents everybody else that's on this call, and it represents the entire hunting community. So I'm always really mindful of that, of what I'm sharing and how it represents folks. And if you post this really bloody picture, and my number one pet peeve is the bloody tongue that's hanging out. I can Photoshop a lot of things, and that one's hard.
Yeah. But you have to remember too, is that like on Facebook, there's friends of friends, right? And
exactly.
So, and I forget sometimes because I'm so tunnel visioned into hunting, like that other people don't necessarily think like I do. And, you know, we have to remember that not just Facebook, but even Instagram into the search feed, you got people that know nothing about hunting and are friends of your friends seeing your stuff. And so to them, you know, they look at your pictures and be like, oh, that looks cruel. Or, you know, even sometimes I love everything you said. And to add to that, sometimes even a description of like, I'm a huge predator. I mean, hello, I'm a huge predator.
We want to hear that story,
okay.
I think, next.
Okay. I'm a huge predator, but coyotes all year round, mountain lions, you know, I'm not a trapper, but I had a meeting with a bunch of trappers today who literally, trapping is essential, in my opinion, to just manage the predators, the ungulates, the deer, the elk, you know, the birds, in terms of, I'm a wildlife commissioner. We have a big meeting next week. One of the issues is a pheasant program of restocking pheasants in the wild. And the, opponents of it are saying, well, we're just feeding the coyotes kind of thing. Well, depending on where we're releasing these, maybe we need to think of some incentives to coyote hunt. You know, it all plays together. But I also think it's important. Some people, and I hate to pigeonhole guys and gals, but sometimes guys are so like proud to be hunters, which I am too. And they're like, I'm gonna post whatever I want. It's my, I can post it because I can, is an argument I've heard quite a bit. Yes, you can. You might get it taken down, but yes, you can. But just remember, like, you're also educating, you're also teaching, you're also like, there's nothing wrong with being proud. If you have been hunting for, 5 years and you score a wolf, let's just say, which is very controversial, trust me. There's nothing wrong with you being proud of that wolf that it took you 5 years to get, or that you finally trapped and figured it out, whatever, but do it respectfully, because, and maybe in the caption explaining how many elk and deer a wolf or a pack eats a year, and why you feel like as a hunter that predator management's important. So not just photos, like you said, but captions as well.
Yeah. My goal anytime, especially with social media, is I want somebody to see that and be like, oh, tell me more, or, oh, how can I do that? Or, oh, maybe you've inspired me to go and try this type of new hunting out or something too.
Yeah.
Because I would hate for somebody to see something and be like, oh God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because it's just not the image that I think us as a hunting community need to be portraying. It's all about kind of inspiring people. And it ties back into that mentorship. Your social media platforms are essentially a mentorship avenue.
Yep.
It's a mentorship tool without you even knowing and without you even trying. Like, I followed you on social media way before I ever met you. And then, since we've met, become great friends. So you never really know how social media is going to interact you. And you might build some really cool mentorship opportunities, and people may ask you, hey, will you take me out? next time you go fishing, can I tag along? It's a great opportunity for you to get a lot of that out there.
Yeah, for sure. I've had a lot of people too, like with cats and bears and if so you made a comment that spurred something in me, that when, like, I've had people reach out and say, I thought mountain lions were endangered. And that kind of thing, I'm more than happy to discuss. In fact, flat out, don't DM me, ask me that on the picture so we can dialogue, so other people can read along and see. Obviously, I've had a lot of these too. Oh, that's disgusting. You C word, B word. Those, it is of my opinion, 13 years into this, don't even bother. If someone is name calling you, name calling, swearing, being rude, it's not even worth debating about. Simply delete their ban them first and then delete their comment. It's the easiest route. Don't report them. Melissa Bachman, a good friend of mine who has a show on Sportsman's Channel, she gave me the advice years back that whatever you do, don't report their accounts, because what Facebook had did to her, this was years back, but she had just started to grow her Facebook page. She had 30-some thousand, and she was getting a bunch of death threats, I think from an African hunt. And she started reporting the crude, rude death threats. And Facebook said, we see these comments, we can't protect you, we're shutting you down. So it is of my opinion that we stand tall as hunters, but if someone's being rude to you or name calling, just block them, delete their comments, and move on. But if they pose a question and they really want to learn, try to do it publicly and be respectful. And, I tend to be a little, I err on the side of caution. If I think they're egging me on or something like that, I may have a private conversation with them. But if they legitimately want to learn, and I'll say, no, mountain lions are not endangered. In fact, here's a study that I'm linking here to the Fish and Game Region 2 in the Bitterroot Valley. We are 33% above carrying capacity of the land. That means there's a third too many mountain lions, and they're eating too many mule deer and too many fawns and whitetails on the river bottoms and elk calves. And I literally bumped this cat off a dead elk. So There you go. There you have it. Proof's in the pudding. But it's important to hold each other high and have those kind of conversations where we can help teach and educate,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that kind of might segue good into our next topic too, of we have to face a lot of challenges, not just as hunters, but as female hunters too. We tend to get a lot more of, I think, that negative attention via social media and just any sort of online platforms too. But, there's a lot of challenges that we have to face, not just as mentors, but also as mentees. It's a learning process, and especially trying to get out there. But as a mentor, what maybe challenges have you seen some of your mentees overcome that has really helped you to be a better mentor, not just for them, but for other folks too? And, you mentioned earlier with a lot of the folks that you do help have a lot of physical disabilities, but, they're super tough and they're getting through those. So maybe what other challenges do you see, maybe besides some of those physical limitations that turn out not to be a severe limit for them?
One of the challenges that comes up a lot in conversation when I'm especially at expos like the Hunt Expo or the NWTF, National Wild Turkey Federation show in Nashville, is I meet a lot of parents and their younger kids. And especially like at NWTF, where it seems to be very heavily loaded with southern states. And in a lot of the southern states, there is no age limit. So we're talking grade schoolers that are out there hunting. And one of the biggest challenges these young kids hunt is ridicule from other kids in school. And I think that that's pretty prevalent, especially young girls, not only from non-hunters, but from young girls who happen to find success getting it from the boys in their classrooms. And that's actually very common. I've had a lot of parents say, especially in Utah, when it comes to mule deer, oh, my daughter shot this 180-inch beautiful mule deer, and all the boys are giving her a lot of slack. And, and that's, I think, something that we need to be aware of and help younger hunters, help them understand that, first of all, way to go, good for you, that's amazing, and have other people rally around them and who are so proud of them, but give them the tools to stand confident and say, it took me a lot of hard work. You can name call me all you want, but it took me, and I always tell you, youth, don't name call back. Don't, they want to engage you, right? They want to get you mad. They're jealous. And I say the best comeback at all is if someone in person or online is giving you a hard time from a successful hunt, you say, jealousy is such an ugly emotion. That's all you got to say back. but taking it a step further too, it's helpful to help our youth understand, like, hunting is conservation, like you just said. And there's a lot of really good, easy links. RMEF has a great one. If you Google RMEF hunting is conservation, they have a 25 or 30 bullet point thing that explains why there are more animals and birds in this planet because of hunters, and why the herds are bigger because of us. There's more, birds, flocks, because of us, how we go to protect animals when it comes to disease and research. And, that even just having a couple of tidbits like that for our youth to come back at kids with, and also to understand, like, there may be jealousy from whether it's the boys in your class or someone online, but you're never ever, and this sounds cliche, but you're never going to make everybody happy.
No.
It's not humanly possible, so be proud of the hard work that you put into notching that tag, because it's never easy. Some hunts are easier than others, but you still probably had to go through hunter safety. You probably battled the cold, you battled all these other things to do that. You learned weaponry, which I think hunter safety should be in every single school room across the country. Gun safety, you get a little bit of conservation messages of how hunters pay for our wildlife management through that. I think it should be a must. But I think that if we can give kids the strength to hold their composure, not engage negatively, and to just be proud of being a hunter and what it means, and to be able to come back with a couple of bullet points like I just mentioned.
That's such awesome advice. And I went through hunter's ed when I was 12 too. And I remember being in school and being like, yeah, I'm going hunting, or I shot this buck this weekend. I remember people I went to school with were just like, ew, like, why would you do that? And yeah, brushing it off and just being like, well, I could bring you some bear sausage for you to try it for breakfast tomorrow, just opening up some new ways of thinking. And what I find so entertaining now as an adult is so many of those kids that gave me a hard time in school for hunting are now hunters. Yeah. And I'm like, see, it wasn't cool then, but it's cool now. Welcome to the club. Yeah. So yeah, just being supportive, I think, of your kids or your, kids in your neighborhood or anything too. Having those kind of conversations and giving them that confidence to be like, I am very proud to be a hunter.
Just a couple of one-liners. I'm really proud of that. So whatever you say doesn't bother me. Jealousy is such an ugly emotion. And this is 2022. Aren't we past the bullying now?
Yeah.
Just a couple of little one-liners like that can give kids a lot of confidence.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I'm sure a lot of people, on this call can probably relate to a lot of that too. And even, it applies to us as adults too.
Oh yeah.
We run into a lot of folks, even as adults, that might have ugly things to say. And that's some great advice for us to carry with us too. So, man, hunting season's like right around the corner, Jana.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I'm like chomping at the bit to get out there. Hunt start for us. Well, hunting season already started for us. Bear season, oh my gosh, did it open yesterday? Did I just miss that? Bear season opened yesterday?
You're working too hard, girl.
Oh man, I need to get my bear tag. But antelope hunts have started. Elk and deer hunts are starting in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Tell us what you're doing to get ready for hunting season, other than the usual. I'm getting all my gear together. I'm making sure I'm going to shoot. What kind of under the radar things are you working on to prepare for your hunting season? And tell us a little bit about what you got planned this fall.
Yeah, well, my season is a little odd, just because of logistically. I actually drive over to Helena, Montana on the 24th because I have wildlife commissioner meetings on the 24th and 25th. I head down to Utah on the 26th, and I don't come back to my house until October 10th. So my part of my planning is just, okay, I've got luggage for-
Where do I need to be?
Yeah, where am I going to be? What am I going to need? And it's crazy because I need different weapons for different hunts. Basically my kit, I call it my gear kit, is the same. My pack is the same, but my weaponry is different. I've got my camera equipment because one of the hunts I'm self-filming. So it's, to me, it's getting all my gear organized. So when I leave out the door on the 24th, I've got everything with me. I work out a ton. Sometimes can't squeeze it in as much, but 3 to 5 times a week. And that's just so I stay feeling fit enough. Because I don't know, like my first hunt is going to be a bear hunt, Prince of Wales. I have a bear tag for Prince of Wales.
Cool.
It's not going to be climbing the mountains as much as I think it is, more so like stalking the creek bottoms. But I want to be ready. I want to be ready at all time. I've got a Utah muzzleloader hunt at the end of September, which is going to be probably a ton of hiking. I've done that hunt before. We hiked our butts off. So I just always prepare, not for a hunt specifically, but just to be always prepared. I walk on the treadmill with weighted packs when I get a little closer to a hunt, but I've been doing a lot of leg lifting just because I know I'm going to be doing a lot of climbing this fall. But other than that, it's just making sure, like, the boring, got my gear ready, got everything in my pack. And to me, I'm going to be flying. So, okay, I can't fly with that. Normally in my pack, I've got a knife, I've got a lighter, I've even got a fire starter. I got to remove all that, make sure, and there have been so many times I haven't. I got to remove all that from my backpack, because I typically travel with my pack as a carry-on, that kind of thing, little details like that. But no, I'm super excited. And then I come back October 10th, 8th through the 10th, whenever I drive back. And I've got a Montana antelope tag, deer tag, elk tag, bear tag. Might be a little late for bear, but bear here in Montana is so long that if I happen to be elk hunting and I see a bear, I can divert the hunt, kind of thing.
Yes.
But I've got those 4 Montana tags, wolf tag in my pocket. And then hopefully a Midwest whitetail hunt in November. And that's pretty much what my fall looks like. So
that sounds super busy.
Yeah.
The logistics behind that of just traveling with all that stuff.
There's a Florida gator hunt in there too, which is completely different gear that I've got to make sure I have my Florida bag packed, because completely different mindset. And it's a bow fishing trip for alligators. Luckily, I don't have to take any of my bow fishing gear down there. I'm meeting AMS in Florida. But again, gear wise, completely different than the mountains of Utah or Prince of Wales, Alaska. So it's just kind of organizing, and I'm sure there'll be something I forget. But another thing I tell people, just, you can't expect perfection, whether on the hunt or preparing for the hunt. There's a lot of times where I have forgotten something, and you just don't get hard on yourself. It's just sometimes I have a list in my phone that does really help, where I have knife, medical kit, everything listed on my thing that I want to have in my pack or in my bino harness, tags, gear like that helps me, a list that helps me. But life is unpredictable, and sometimes it's just spontaneous, unpredictable. You forget stuff. Don't be hard on yourself. Almost everything can be remedied.
Yes, you can pick up other things if you forget stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm such a list person. I have a list probably like everywhere. Just a matter of remembering to put them all in the same place whenever I'm packing. But yeah, you have to be super adaptable, especially for what sounds like your hunt schedule coming up. But
I just thought of something. And one of the things that might help the crew here is one of the preparations is, what are your hunts? Where are you going to be? Download that app. For anyone here who uses OnX, I can't hunt without it. OnX on your app on your phone. If you're going there, even if I got pretty good cell service in that area. I have been on hunts where I get behind a hill or in a canyon, boom, no cell service. Cache in the maps. You can do it on a 100-mile radius. I wouldn't recommend that because it's not as good a clear of a picture, but you can do it in 10-mile chunks, and you cache it in while you're in service, and then you don't need service and you can pull it up offline. That's a really good preparation tip.
Absolutely. And that's also a perfect note too, of everyone who has joined us on our call tonight is actually getting a promo code for OnX Maps to use for a 1-year subscription. Thanks to Jana and to OnX for that. So a lot of you have been joining us for months or probably years at this point. And so thanks to Jana, that's kind of a little give back. And we want to help you be as prepared as possible before you head out on your hunts this fall. And so, yes, downloading those maps are super, super important. when you still have service, because if you don't download them, guilty. I've done it before. I've gotten out there and I thought I would have service and I didn't. So
Colleen,
you guys
can
can
I just
expect.
mention, that if you're joining us by phone and your name isn't up on the screen, if you could type it down in the chat so I
Yes.
can get your name so we can get out those codes to everybody would be.
Yeah, and if you don't have the opportunity to be able to actually type anything in, if you're only on audio on your phone, we can unmute you and you can give us your name. That way we can make sure to get that to you, because sometimes with the phones you can't do much else but talk.
Yeah, well, let us know you were here. And so sorry for everyone who is watching this on the recording tomorrow, but you should have joined us. This is why you join these things.
Right.
So yeah, we will be sending out those codes to you guys later this week, and you guys can start downloading all your maps and get ready for your hunts this fall. So thank you so much, Jana and Onyx,
Don't thank
for
me,
helping us
thank
out on
Onyx.
that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, just one last question for you before maybe we turn it over to the group, and if anyone else has any questions for you. You know, I get a ton of questions all the time and do a lot of speaking engagements with folks in our community in different schools about how to get involved in the outdoor industry. And, you know, you come from a background of having, you know, public relations degree, but worked in some kind of different sectors before you jumped into the outdoor industry. And it's kind of been your life, you know, the last, what'd you say, 13 years? What advice would you have for somebody who's trying to get involved in the outdoor industry, whether it is something as forward facing as having a TV show, or even just getting involved from a volunteer standpoint with different groups? Or what advice do you have for getting involved, I guess, in roles in the outdoor industry?
Yeah, well, there's so many different career paths in the hunting and fishing industry. There really is. There's, you know,
So many.
fishing game. Yeah. There's working for the conservation groups, which I actually think would be super fun. And you have experience there, you know, where it's just people of all kind of like-minded, you know, knowing you're giving back. There's the TV world is completely changing. I think, in a great way. It's gone digital. I mean, not to say it's still not. And when I say TV, like, for example, CarbonTV, I started out on Sportsman's TV. Sportsman's Channel is a network channel, right? You had to have dish or cable to get it. Well, you know, 3 years ago, I saw totally a shift in people going digital. I saw changes inside network TV that I didn't really like. My partners were kind of pushing me to go digital, a couple of them, to be like, hey, you know, because if you're on network TV, you got to happen to catch it, right? Or you have to record it. And if you miss it, you might get a rerun of that episode in 3 months, but then that's it, you know, versus YouTube, CarbonTV type of platforms where they're so great for the fact that, number one, CarbonTV is completely free. You can watch it on your TV through Roku, Fire Stick, AirPlay, casting it to your TV. You can watch it an app on the phone. You can watch it on your laptop. It's always free. And then when someone finds you, they go back and watch all your other episodes. So and that's changing, and it's opening up a lot of more career space in for people who want, let's say they want to have a digital program, or maybe they have YouTube and want to take it to the next level. Well, you know, you have to have partnerships to do that, and you've got to show your partners, whether it's like my main partners from the beginning, Nosler, Vortex, Cryptech, Grizzly Ears, Magnum Research are my biggies. Onyx. I'm going to get really yelled at if I forget some here, but that's all right. But I came to them with a program or a media kit in the beginning that says, like, this is what I'm all about. This is what my show looks like, which is a pilot. You take a pilot and you pitch it to them. I want to show what the hunt is really about to me. It's not about how big your animal is. And hey, let's all face it, we love big animals. And I've been blessed with a couple of them, but it's not what it's about to me. I'm not a trophy hunter. I'm about the experience. I'm about eating what I hunt. I'm about conservation. And so, you know, and some of the partners, without even having any shows air yet, said, I love that idea. You know, and I got into it where there weren't any other solo female hosted shows. I think I got into Melissa and I were maybe right back to back on the Sportsman's Channel. But the reason they jumped on it is there weren't any solo female hosted shows. With the experience of coming to it with having already, you know, almost 20 years under my belt as hunting. I think right now in the digital world we live in and social media, there's a lot of influencers who make a career off just Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Yeah.
If you want a career in the hunting and fishing world, it doesn't work as easy as it does, like, let's say you're doing makeup tutorials. Like people, I'm not dissing on makeup, but my partners want to see, my partners especially, I've had this conversation with them a lot. They want to see that you're successful. They want to see, like, what do you bring to the table? And now, mind you, you don't have to have 30 years under your belt, but you've got to, if you're a brand new hunter, then show what your show is about. Well, I'm a brand new hunter and I want to show people as I go through this learning period, I want to show people what it's like to go through it with me. I think that's awesome. If you come to the hunting and fishing industry with no experience and just a pretty face and you want to have a TV show kind of thing, if your shtick isn't teaching and learning as you go, you're not going to get partnerships who stand behind you because they want to see you walk the walk and talk the talk. Yeah. I mean, the girls in the backyard in their bikinis pulling back their bows, they might get a lot of clicks and likes, but they're not necessarily going to get sponsorship. Let's just face it. You know what I'm saying? And so, well, they might from a bikini company, but you know,
not the legit ones.
No, I mean, I don't. Yeah. But there's a lot of careers in the hunting and fishing industry. And my advice would be find out what you're passionate about. And remember, you got to start somewhere. So maybe it's part-time, or maybe let's just say you're a gun buff and you love guns and you love to shoot them and you're proficient in them. There's a lot of like marketing opportunities for Nosler, for example. They're my gun and ammo company. They're constantly looking for people, not necessarily always on the marketing side, but you could work in the factory, in the plant, learn what they know. Like, find your passion, find what you love to do. And there's probably a career path out there for you. And like you and I have talked about this before, the conservation groups always seem to be looking for great people who are passionate about hunting, conservation, spreading the word. I would just say, a lot of us put this like imposter syndrome in our heads and think, well, I'm not good enough for that, or I don't know enough about that. And honestly, I think every human being does that. You've got to learn to overcome that and be really comfortable in your own skin and then go for it. In today's day and age, the work environment is a lot different thanks to the internet and social media than it was when I started out. But I think there's a lot of really good opportunities out there. And if you're willing to work hard and even sometimes willing to do what you love in the hunting and fishing world on the side while you're growing your content or while you're trying to get experience, I think that's the best way about it.
Absolutely. Great advice. And, we've got other ladies in here too that have spent some time in the, getting into the conservation world. Stephanie's actually brand new to it. She just joined us like a month ago. And came from the medical field before. But she did exactly what you just said, Jana, of like finding the things that she's passionate about and pursuing them. So that's great advice. So
and I would just add, like, don't get discouraged if you get shut down the first time either. Keep going, because it will pay off. And then I think I applied for all kinds of jobs with the department for 4 years before I finally landed something. So don't get discouraged. Somebody will give you the opportunity. And I greatly thank the folks that gave me the opportunity to get me here today. So
I always think of the movie too. The movie is not as good as the book, but The Secret. Have any of you heard of The Secret? Yeah. Well, I've watched that. I read that book like when it came out, like 20 years ago. It was a long time ago. I might be wrong on that, but a long time ago. And I've every about once a year or two, I watch the documentary, which it's not as good as the book, but basically it's the concept of like putting out there the energy that you want, putting out there the intention is so powerful. It really is. What are your ask yourself really deep down. If your intention is to make a lot of money, you might not want to get into the hunting and fishing industry. But if your intention is to, inspire other people to get outside and to spread the passion and, what are your true intentions? And The Secret works. Basically, what you put out circles back around you, whether you like it or not. That's how the world works. That's what I really, truly believe in. Sometimes when we're going through super hard times, we get angry and we think, why is this happening to me? And if you can look at it like a gift, whatever it is, whether it's you lost a job, you got a breakup, whatever, in the heart of it, it's hard. But as you grow out of it, you start to see, and like, what a beautiful thing that was. and to take on that, what you put out there comes back at you, and everything happens for a reason. And when if you are in a stage in your life looking for a new career or even a new hobby or passion, remember that. Remember The Secret. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. I think of that book all the time in my life for a lot of different instances, but that was a big driver for me.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch and reread that, I think.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I'm gonna turn it over. If anyone else has any other questions for Miss Jana, you can type them in the chat. We can unmute you however you want to do best. But now's your chance to pick her brain and ask her questions, maybe even or us questions too. We are here to help you as well, getting ready for hunting season. Like we said, it's right around the corner.
Colleen, I'm going to leave it up to you to go into that chat. I
Okay.
sometimes like sit there
I got it.
and I deep dive deep in it. But if there's anything in the chat that we should talk about, I'm going to let you direct that.
I
One
think
thing that I just want to bring up out there, because Darcy had put a plug in to when we were kind of talking about the mentoring and the volunteering, is she did post the link of how to become a volunteer with an agency, and it's ours. You know, you can, the link is specific to us, but you can go to any state wildlife agency and click on their how to become a volunteer, and you don't. A lot of people don't want to maybe instruct somebody in something, but they're looking for any conservation type of volunteer to help the agency with their goals and objectives. And if you like to be in the background and just kind of help out, you know, be a gopher, or, you know, however you feel, do it. Don't just sit back on the sidelines and think, well, I'm not good enough to do that, or I can't contribute. Absolutely, you can contribute at whatever capacity. And if you don't have some skills, you're going to learn skills. And what I really like about people helping out at whatever capacity is now you get to start networking with like-minded people, and you start making those connections with people who enjoy being outside, whether it's you like to bird watch or you are a hunter. And I'm a bird nerd. Stephanie got some of that from me. I'm like, oh, look at that bird. Oh, look at that. I have this app. And so you get, just because I'm a hunter or a fisher, but I love bird watching and plant ID and all of those other kind of things. And so you get to learn from other people who like to be outside. And so just go out there and get involved and start making friends out there who like to do things outside just like you.
Yeah, I
Great
even
plug. Come join us.
I had volunteered for crane check stations at one point with the department, and then it led to like duck banding stuff, and it just, you know, spiraled then. So yeah, definitely sign up for that volunteer program, because it gets you a lot of.
Yeah, you can pack in fish into the gorge for a stocking project, and they give you a little backpack and they give you a bag of fish, and then you get to hike down and put them in the water. It's super cool. You know, what other place do you get to do that?
Yep.
Super cool.
I think I want to start out with a question, and hopefully this might fuel some more conversation. But Jana, what advice would you give to women, especially women in leadership roles within the conservation, or within conservation groups, within the department? You're on the board there. Do you call it a board?
It's a commission, but it's the same thing. Yep.
So what advice would you give those women being in like a commission or, you know, a board that is mostly male, it's male dominant? What advice would you give to those women?
That's funny that you should ask that, because I was just on a panel a couple months ago with the Artemis Foundation, and it was leadership, women in leadership in this arena. And it was just an awesome panel of women. And we talked a lot about the imposter syndrome, which I mentioned, where we tell ourselves we're not good enough, or I don't know that or that. And trust me, when I took on this commissioner role for Montana, I don't even know if you ever learn it all. There's so much information, and really, the advice I'd give is don't let that negative voice dominate your thoughts, because we all have it. What if I don't know this? What if I'm caught with a question and I'm like, be comfortable with saying, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out. Or, be comfortable in saying, that's just not my area of expertise. because I think that's everybody, right? Even the smartest people I know, from PhDs to, genius type of individuals, don't know everything. They have, we're all kind of, I always say we're kind of categorical. Like, I know a lot about this, but if you ask me anything that has to do with math or numbers, forget it. Like, we're all, and a lot of other categories too, don't come to me. But it's being comfortable saying that, being comfortable in saying like, I might not know that, I might not be good enough. Don't let that negative self-talk dictate your direction in life. That would be my advice.
Awesome.
Because we all have it.
I am so guilty of it. I mean, with the ladies, I told them it was my first hunting camp, and I told them that all weekend. I'm like, holy cow! I mean, I don't know nothing. But
I still feel like that. I still feel like that too. Like, literally, I've been big game hunting 30 years, and I hunt with every weapon under the sun, and I still feel like that at times. I still feel like, well, I don't, what is the ballistic coefficiency of my, but like I'm, what do they call that? Where I'm master of none. What is that?
Oh, jack of all trades, but master of none.
Exactly. But it really does. I really do. The older I get, just realizing that everybody has a little bit of that, and to not let that dictate your decisions in life. If you're given a great opportunity, someone else then thinks highly of you. And there's a lot of people that might not have the same knowledge base or skill set, but maybe they're really good at communication and they're really good at bringing people together. And that's what someone else sees in you. And so you can take a role that you may be ambivalent about because someone else sees leadership in you or sees qualities in you that you might not even be aware of. So don't let the negative talk, ask a ton of questions, but don't let the negative talk ever steer you from taking a leadership role or a new job or a new position. I think that's to me, that's the whole quote, Theodore Roosevelt quote about sitting on the bleachers instead of getting into the arena.
So for example, I'm also the president of our Quill Forever chapter here in New Mexico. What would you tell the ladies as far as like the guys that come in and they're like, oh, I know better than you. And they kind of insert themselves into maybe your role or, kind of overshadow you?
I feel like you just have to have there's something really special about quiet confidence, and you will always, I feel like there's always a bully in a room. And whether it's a situation like that, where a group of guys come in and they're old school and they've been meeting for 20 years together, or, it's a good old boys club. That's a big topic I've had a lot of people bring up of like, I belong to this hunt club, or I belong to this conservation group, and it's just a bunch of good old boys and I said, yeah, but you're there, you're showing a passion, you're showing interest. Don't let somebody elbow you out of your space and time. I don't think I wouldn't give the advice of, well, be louder than them and be, in their face. No, sometimes there's just a quiet confidence, and you've got to win them over with either your personality or your skill set or just the fact that you want to be involved and be there. And then remember too, is you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be people out there that criticize and critique and want to bring you down and say things about you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there in the world with scarcity mentality, thinking that there's only so much. Here's a pie of happiness or success or wealth or whatever it is. Here's a pie. And if someone else has one of those things, then they've got a piece of the pie that's gone now. Well, that's not how the world works. There's enough pie to go around for everybody. And if you realize that, and you have that mentality of there's enough happiness, there's enough success, there's enough room in here for all of us, and go in with that mentality, I think that then you'll eventually win them over. And if you don't, who cares?
I have to say, I love that. And I apologize for being late. I was actually having a conversation with a colleague, and he asked about hiring a position, and he said, we need to replace you. And I said, you don't need to replace me. You need to find somebody with a skill set that can advance this agency. And I think across the whole hunting, fishing, outdoor recreation industry, that's how we need to look at our colleagues and each other as women, is how can we use your skill set to advance this agency, to advance this NGO, to advance this forward? Because it doesn't have to be the way we've done it or the way I did it for the last 5 years or something else. But we all have that skill and we just need to highlight it and bring it forward. And so I appreciate exactly what you're saying, Jana. And so shifting gears a little bit. Sorry, Stephanie, did you have more questions?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the emotional side of hunting and preparing emotionally. And I have a couple of different thoughts just so you get a background where I'm coming from. Like on my last elk hunt, I was so mentally prepared until I pulled the trigger and there was an animal down and I lost it. I was like shaking. I was hyperventilating. I was like, I had not prepared myself emotionally for after I had harvested. I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. And then I was like, oh my God, now and it was a 9-day elk hunt and we hiked so many miles in those, or 10 days. And I shot it on the last day. And then another one I can think of, you had mentioned earlier, the Wyoming women's antelope hunt. And I'd been out with a woman, I was mentoring with her, and she went immediately from this like ecstatic, like literally jumping up and down. I had to take the gun from her because I was afraid that something was going to happen because she was so excited, to just horrified that she had shot an animal, and tears of this, that she felt it was a tragedy. And then like 3 minutes later, she was crying tears of happiness because she had this fresh meat for her family. And I sat on this hillside crying and laughing and screaming with her for like half an hour before we could do anything. And it's just a very emotional activity. And I think I'm a very emotional person as it is. And so can you talk a little bit in your experience with how you've helped women specifically, and men, because I've seen men have these same reactions, kind of work through those emotions, and that it's okay to have those emotions, and just what is your advice and how do you prepare yourself for that?
Well, I hope to God I never lose that, because I'm the same way. Like seriously, 3 decades later, I'm the same way. I cry at a hunt. I'm so excited. There's really not a word in our English language that I have found that describes that come when, with a hunt. You have, and I still have everything you just explained. I'm sad. I'm an animal lover. And that's really a disconnect for people who are non-hunters. They don't understand how we can pull a trigger and still be an animal lover. Well, there's a bit of, I think we're denying our true nature if we don't admit, and this is more of a guy thing, but I hate to categorize, but it is, a little bit of sadness there, and I hope I never, ever, ever lose that. There's a little bit of sadness when I have an animal down, because that was a living, breathing, beautiful animal. But on the flip side of that animal, their lifespan is not like ours. They're not going to live 90 years old. They have a lifespan. That animal 5 minutes ago was running an organic, lovely life. And I'm going to utilize that animal for its meat. And I'm next level. I take the hide and I make bear pillows and clothing and jewelry. But it is hard to describe. And I think even it might be kind of neat to maybe somehow get that, and maybe it is already, into the hunters education program and talk about that. So just people have an awareness of, and they don't think something's wrong with them. I had that exact situation when I was a mentor through the Wyoming Women's Antelope Hunt. It is such a cool program put on by the Women's Foundation of Wyoming. They typically have 30 or 40 hunters. Half of them are brand new, never been before, and the other half are mentors. But we all get to hunt. It's a 2-day hunt. I think the first year I did it, there were 40 hunters and 38 tagged out. Like, it's an all the ranchers donate their property, and it's just an amazing hunt. But the gal I was with was a first-time hunter from California. Her name was Hillary. She's the cutest thing ever. And she got her antelope down, and same thing. First of all, she shoots, good shot, but it took a little bit, and what seemed like forever to her was probably 30 seconds. And I said, if you are comfortable, you can place another shot. She shoots again, the animal goes down. And she had this plethora of emotions, right? Of like, oh my God, I did this, to, oh my God, I did this, the whole gambit. And it's normal. We're human beings. We are emotional, and I'm sorry, but it is what it is, that women tend to be a little bit more naturally emotional than men. But I have seen men, cry and get super excited too, which I think is beautiful. But I think it's just if you can, and you're in a mentorship role, is explain that that's really normal and really common. And I hope I never lose that, because that's the human nature part of it. And there's nothing wrong with having a bit of sadness or empathy for that animal and celebrating the kingdom come It is what it is. It's why Native American cultures, like you often see me, especially on antelope hunts on the prairie, burning sage as a thank you. And I've hunted with a bunch of Native American tribes. I've hunted with the Chippewa Cree, the Swampy Cree. Over in Box Elder, they did a tobacco burning. And I love that appreciation, that sense of gratitude, that sense of sadness. There's always a little sadness while they're doing the tobacco offering of thank you so much for your life and what your life will give me my life. And I think that it's normal, and we need to just even sometimes make it a little more aware that that could happen, you know, and that that's okay. It's part of the deal. And I actually think we should embrace that.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing all of that. And I hope that we can make it more normal, because I like you, I hope I never lose that feeling and that appreciation for what has happened and what's been given to me. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's a really good topic. Yeah. And maybe we need to, you know, think about how we can incorporate that into hunters safety and educational classes, like, and just normalize it, because really it's just a plethora of emotions that, you know, and if any of you out there find the good word for that, let me know, because I have yet to find it. But I think it's healthy and it's normal, and there's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes if that awareness, even though awareness is a positive thing, but if you don't have that, and then you're in that situation like you are, it comes maybe unexpected, and then you think, am I normal? Like, how could I be so excited and crying at the same time? Name one other thing that does that besides hunting. No, I mean, you really can. And it's one of the things I've described, the emotion, the plethora of emotions with people who are non-hunters. And they'll say, well, what about athleticism or, you know, athletics? You know, my daughter's a pro athlete, or she's, you know, she's a pro soccer player or whatever. They have amazing emotions and they cry. And then, yeah, but there's not the empathy component. You know, there's not the sadness component that with hunting. I think it does obviously have a huge spectrum and plethora of emotions, but nothing that I have found in my life comes even close to the spectrum that comes with notching a tag.
And to bounce off of that, I feel like a lot of the best memories and bonding experiences, you know, in a tree stand or wherever you are with people, is experiencing that emotion together.
Yeah.
It makes it not just like a sport, but like you said, like a lifestyle. And that's where you really get someone hooked on it, you know, when you're walking through the God's creation, or when you're feeling that emotion with someone and you're seeing all of your hard work, and now you're being able to provide that for your family or take it home. And that's what the emotion is what makes it so special, I think.
I think so too. And it can really bond families together. Like, it is truly the thing that bonds my dad and I. So we have he has two daughters. My older sister, we always joke, she only goes outside to get to her car. That's as far as it goes. And so we're completely different, but I feel such a bond to him through our hunting experiences, like you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. I just moved to New Mexico from Alabama like 3 months ago. We got stationed here. My fiance, my fiance's been here for about a year. But Stephanie, I was doing pharmaceutical sales back home. And so I was waiting on a medical sales job or something here before I moved. And when we got engaged, I was like, well, crap, that means I have to move. I think that's part of like the contract we're about to say to each other. But I have loved New Mexico. And one of the reasons I'm on this call is because, you know, back home, I was a huge hunter. We did duck, we did dove, we fish, bass fish, saltwater. And here I'm so excited about just the big game that's here, and a completely different world, and trout fishing. And I mean, I'm just pumped about it all. So I'm really thankful for this opportunity, and y'all taking time out to talk to people who are experienced and people like me who are excited to get some, you know, experience here on this side of the country.
That's so great. That's so
We are
great.
so excited that you joined us. Like,
yes, and reach out
Yeah.
to anybody and let us know how that goes, or, you know, get a group together and get out there. So like, awesome.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. We were actually at Albuquerque a couple weekends ago, and I think this kind of lit my fire, which I'm kind of feisty anyways, but it's because I'm short. But we were looking at new fly rods and stuff, trying to get into it. And this man had come up and had asked him a question about it, like, oh, what do you think? You know, we're new to this. And he directly looked at my fiance and talked to him and invited him. And I was like, hello, like,
Hi.
I was the one that was interested. Remember me? You know, so this is awesome because I think sometimes it is harder for a female or more intimidating for a female to get plugged in. So I'm pumped.
That's so great.
We have all been in your shoes.
Yep.
So unfortunately it happens, but it comes again with like what Jana said earlier of just let it roll off your back. It's not the end of the world. I used to work in a sporting goods store too. So it went both ways, unfortunately, a lot. But welcome to New Mexico. I'm so stoked that you're here and I'm so happy that you joined us. This is why we do these kinds of calls, is just, you know, for people like you. Rhonda actually just moved here too from Utah like a year ago, maybe or so, Rhonda now. So we're here to help you. So if you ever need anything, please, anyone on the call, don't ever hesitate to reach out. So we're happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I know we're getting close to our time, so I want to be kind of mindful of that. But if anyone else has any other questions, now is your time. If not, we will be letting everybody go for the evening.
I just want to put a plug in for Kira real quick on the chat. She put her contact information and said if anybody is interested, she would love to take somebody afield. So thank you, Kira, so much for that. That's an amazing step forward. Thank you.
Yeah. See, we created some mentors out of today's session. I can go home.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
If anyone thinks of any questions after the fact too, it's just me behind all my social media. So just reach out. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So send me any messages. If you got gear questions, we could do a whole chat about gear. You know, what are the boots you wear? What pack do you wear? What clothes do you wear? Whatever. And yes, I have my partners, but I've worn everything and I've tried everything. And I've no problem explaining why I like something and why I don't like that. And but if anyone has any questions like that, reach out anytime on social media. It's just me. This week's crazy with commission stuff this week, and it might be a little bit before I get back to you, but just reach out anytime.
Well, you are always welcome to join us too, Jana. So we do these once a month, and it's always a hoot. So speaking of, I don't know what our topic is for next month.
I don't think we've really narrowed it down. We've kind of shotgunned a ton of topics, and I think we need to narrow it down because we had a whole bunch of really cool topics. So yeah, just it's a surprise.
Yes,
it's a mystery bag.
Mystery bag next month. But
and if there's
everyone,
something
please
specific,
come and join.
if there's something specific you want to talk about, let us know, because we would much rather talk about like interesting topics than just come up with stuff on our own. So please let us know if you have some ideas for it.
A lot of these conversations have been literally steered by you guys, gals out there telling us this is what I want to learn from. So we don't have our slide with contact information, but you can find either myself, Tristana, Colleen, Stephanie, on the Game and Fish website. Our contact information is posted and plastered all over there. So don't be shy, timid, and retiring, and not reach out to us, because we are here for you. This session is here for you. And so, yes.
And you guys are New Mexico. If all else fails, you could just have a talk about who's seen some really weird stuff when they're out there.
I found some random stuff in the middle of nowhere. A cassette tape out of all things in literally the middle of nowhere.
Weird stuff happens not just in Roswell.
I know. Honestly, that would be a super fun topic though, because, and I'm joking about the spaceships, not really, because I'm really into that. I just listened to a podcast in my car the other day. Is any crazy stuff. But anyway, I personally don't have any great stories like that, but I do have crazy things I've seen out there. Like, I bumped into mating grizzlies and I like stuff like that. That would be a really fun topic of like, what are the craziest things you've seen out there? And like where you wouldn't have ever seen them if you weren't hunting. So that, that would be kind of fun someday. If you ever have that down the road, let me know. I want to join it.
I will.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that's a fun one because I could already think of like 10 things.
I know, me too.
Weird stories. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Jana, do you have anything else you want to leave us with?
No, this was super fun. Thank you for the invite. I absolutely loved it. If anybody has any questions, like I said, just hit me up on social, and good luck to everybody out there. And And I'm super excited to, if anyone notches some good tags, send me some pictures.
For sure. Well, thank you again for joining us. Safe travels in
you.
your crazy plans that are coming up in the next few weeks, and be safe out there. And good luck to everybody. If we don't see or hear from you before our next Ladies Social Hour, if you've got any tags coming up, best of luck. We will be sending out those Onyx codes to the email that you registered with for the Zoom call. So keep an eye out for that. And if you don't get it, reach out to us also, and double check your spam box. But thank you again for joining us, and we'll see everybody next month.
See you later.
Bye.